Sesame.com has basically split the atom with the sophistication of their voice agent technology to the point where you cannot distinguish between speaking to a human and speaking to one of their voice agents. We have taken their open source code, we have forked it and built it into our product.
Hi, my name is Demetri Panici, and I'm a content creator, agency owner, and AI enthusiast. You're listening to the AI Agents Podcast, brought to you by Jotform, and featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ida Tank. This is the show where artificial intelligence meets innovation, productivity, and the tools shaping the future of work. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the AI Agents Podcast. In this episode, we have Andrew Wesbecher from Powered By. Powered By is a new and innovative AI agent company that we're interviewing today. As you all know, we like to bring on the new and upcoming AI agent companies out there, and we're really excited to chat with you. So, Andrew, how are you doing?
Hey, Demetri, thanks for having me. Excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, so I guess just to get things started, obviously we could give the elevator pitch for Powered By. However, I think it would be better to kind of hear, your background and how you got to where you're at. It's crazy to me that companies, I just love hearing the stories of companies. So I'm just very excited to hear about your background and where you came from to come to the point of running Powered By.
Sure. So unfortunately, I'm the OG on this call. I'm in my 40s, my mid 40s, unfortunately. And so I've been in the SaaS and enterprise software space for 25 years. I've seen the great, the good, and the not so good in terms of software quality. Over the last sort of 3 or 5 years, I've really seen the rise of adoption of machine learning technology and more recently the LLMs. And over the last sort of 2 years, I've been specifically investing in Series A and seed stage companies. I have my own venture fund, or you could call it an angel investment fund.
Sure.
And while I was doing due diligence on a couple of investments, I got really deep into AI agents. And I dug myself a rabbit hole into AI agents that I've yet to extricate myself from because of how interesting the technology is. So outside of the business interest, I took a personal interest in it and began experimenting with all of the various different tools at that time, which was Cursor, Windsurf, Klein, and some of the other like GTM, sales and GTM tools like AI, SDR, et cetera, et cetera. And then really began ideating on sort of building a business around AI agents, specifically AI agents that operate in voice, phone, SMS text, and email. And started Powered By Agency about 6 months ago, incorporated it. We launched officially about 3 weeks ago. We're now working with our first set of customers, and so we're off to the races. I think at a high level, what we're focused on is the following, which is all of the larger enterprises in the United States, the Fortune 100,
Yep.
the Fortune 500, they already have a team of AI engineers. They already have an AI, R&D budget and a lab that's already tinkering with the latest in AI agents. Equally, they already have deep relationships with the sort of major players in this space, consisting of OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, and the systems integrators like BCG, Deloitte, and Accenture. The challenge is when you look at the rest of the economy, so take away the Fortune 100, the large banks, airline companies, insurance firms. When you look at the sort of the ecosystem of small to medium-sized businesses, they often get left behind in terms of the attention from the large AI vendors. And those large AI vendors are really interested in large contract values with the largest banks, the largest retail companies. And so Powered by was formed on the mission to democratize access to the most sophisticated AI agent technology for small to medium sized businesses. And
I
so
think it,
I
yeah.
think I think I want to really explain why this mission is important to us, and that is in terms of the overall impact that small to medium sized businesses have on the US economy is often really not well understood, but it's astounding. There are 33.2 million SMB organizations in the United States. They generate 43.2% of the US GDP. They employ 46% of all private sector workers.
Wow.
And the last point is astounding. They represent 32.6% of all US export value. So the foundation of the US economy, believe it or not, is built on small to medium sized businesses. And our mission is to democratize access to the latest, most sophisticated AI agent technology for those organizations um, that are being passed by because the largest AI vendors and systems integrators are going after the big fish.
Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of people are not aware of the I think maybe a lot of people are aware of those general stats of, oh, small businesses make up America, like in the American economy, but they're not aware of the numbers to back it up. And on top of that, I 100% think that you have a good ethos for your company and a good mission because, so I'm a small business owner, but the problem that I notice when I talk to other people is, I mean, I run a SaaS content agency. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I'm going to be more technically inclined than the majority of SMB owners, I would say nowadays. And I'm like the only one that I know that's obviously there's the SaaS companies I work with that are similarly inclined, but nobody else in small business is really able to go through and make their own pseudo AI agent through automation platforms and like knowledge bases and stuff like that. No one knows what that even means. Even
Dimitri,
yeah.
I completely agree. In our sort of ideation phase of building this business, we spoke to a lot of businesses, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and so I live in this
Yeah.
microcosm
Yep.
where we all speak the same language, and everyone's talking about this AI model, this new AI agent, this new RAG architecture, et cetera, et
Hmm.
cetera. But when you take an airplane and fly an hour to 2 hours east of Silicon Valley, that sort of competency and the language that we speak here around the sophistication of these technologies really doesn't exist. And the vast majority of people in the United States still sort of understand and conceptualize AI as talking to ChatGPT. And really,
Mm-hmm.
over the last year, we've just seen a tremendous increase in the breadth of AI technology into it effectively becoming digital humans, digital workers for the
Yeah.
variety of use cases that we offer. And so we're trying to communicate and evangelize all of the new opportunities that small business owners can unlock with AI agent technology.
Yeah. I feel that. I see that. I'm very interested in one of the points that you brought up to start, which I also don't think a lot of people realize, which is, I mean, many people tend to talk about a gap that is emerging between the classes, so to speak. And I think when we're moving into this next phase of the economy, as it's going to be partially run by AI agents, from a workforce standpoint, I don't think people are really aware of what you said at the beginning, which is a lot of these different companies are working with ChatGPT or Claude, or they have their own internal teams building out these AI agent infrastructures that you just simply won't be able to compete with. Say you have a huge marketing agency, one of the top, of those companies might be building something out like that. Obviously, the companies themselves that are already big, Google, Meta, etc., they're building out their own models. And every huge company is essentially day by day getting farther and farther away from where the SMB is at from a technological standpoint. I think maybe something to point out here and then ask a follow-up question from you is people don't even know what like technology debt is, or like the concept of like technical debt. And it seems like your entire goal is to bridge the gap and hopefully make up some of that technical debt that they're unaware of. How do you feel Powered By makes that decrease, and what makes your platform so accessible?
So that's the uniqueness of our approach to the market. There are a variety of very well-funded VC-backed AI agent vendor tools in the market. You'll read one new funding announcement every week on TechCrunch for the next new awesome AI agent vendor. These vendors that I've mentioned are all selling SaaS and or developer tools to allow end customers to build AI agents themselves for either customer use or internal use. We don't do
Mm.
any of that, right? We approach customers on a completely blue ocean, sort of bespoke basis. Now, our approach is that we've got a series of fundamental AI agent foundations that we have built through a combination of open source technology, other vendor tools, and the underlying LLMs. We sort of package that together. And when we go in front of a customer to consult with them on what their potential use cases would be for AI agents, we don't prescribe anything. We consult with them as a management consultant vendor would to a large organization. We sort of understand where they want to drive cost efficiencies, where they have breakdowns in their current customer engagement process,
Mm.
sort of where there are inefficiencies or cost overruns in parts of their business. And then we begin to piece together where is the low hanging fruit for an AI agent to be introduced to this organization, whether it's an AI receptionist, whether it's a voice chat embedded in their website, whether it's an email agent or an SMS text agent, or even a digital avatar. We then work back into what we would then build in a bespoke manner for the customer based on their business requirements and some of the challenges that they're dealing with. So we don't expose the developer framework, nor do we sell the developer framework to the end customer. We act as an agency business. That's why our name is
Mm.
Powered By Agency, which is we have fundamental pieces of intellectual property, but every new customer engagement we treat as a unique snowflake.
Interesting. Okay, so that is a unique situation because I do feel like when it comes to some products, obviously you can just log in, buy the product, and to some extent, obviously there's plug and play that makes sense here. But yeah, that's an interesting. Usually, it was funny when you use the word bespoke. I feel as if that is usually like a meaningless term. When people, I'm forgetting the term for meaningless term here, but like a throwaway term. But that actually, I think in the context of what you're doing, you're truly utilizing the term accurately and trying to provide that, because I think a lot of people will say, we provide unique solutions for XYZ category or thing, but it seems like you're actually going about, I mean, for example, I'm guessing, seen the show in Silicon Valley, right?
100%.
Oh, and my favorite bit that they do in that show is the consistent the consistent reference to, we're changing the world by integrating whatever. Yeah. Therefore making the world a better place. No, and that's usually just throwaway term. But so you literally go through, and anytime someone wants to become a user of your product, you will try to tailor potential AI agent solutions by taking a look at their business and seeing what they need. Is that?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. So there are two elements to our
Mm-hmm.
model, which is one is we have pre-built foundational AI agents that
Yep.
operate in voice, AI receptionist, email, text, and digital avatars. And then we have a team of 4 deployed engineers and engineers that do the eventual design, build, and implementation for the end customer. Where did we get this idea?
Hmm.
Palantir. So we've borrowed, and I hope I don't get sued. We've borrowed their go-to-market model. Palantir obviously focuses on extremely large contract values with, the defense agencies and very large enterprises. We've sort of shrunk that down and taken that go-to-market model and applied it to much smaller businesses with much, much, much smaller contract values. And I think that's also an important point. We make these AI agents affordable for an SMB business where, you can start, um, getting your feet wet with an AI receptionist or a voice chat in your website, for $299 a month or $599 a month based on the number of interactions that you need on a monthly basis. So it's a very different ball game than a Palantir type model. But we borrowed we take fundamental IP and blend it with four deployed engineers, and sort of developer deployment engineers to render the solution for the customer.
And I guess just for the uneducated on the subject as far as they are, something I guess I could add to the reference frame here is I actually used to work in, are you familiar with like the no code consulting space?
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to me because what it seems like you're doing is you're almost taking a bit of that component and giving them not only the solution to maybe have an infrastructure for people to do the work, but then you're actually giving them the capability for AI to do the work, because that's the interesting thing that's occurring, I feel like, in this
Well,
service.
that's you kind of spoiled my surprise, which
Oh
is
no.
uh, our our first iteration of the business is an agency business, which is just like a
Mm.
web design firm from 25 years ago would go build a custom e-commerce site for a brick and mortar retailer. We're doing the same thing right now. Where we're going to real estate agencies, auto dealerships, health clinics, boutique hotel chains, and we're building custom AI agent solutions based on their ultimate business requirements and challenges. Ultimately, what we want to become, and sort of this is the sort of the spoiler, is we want to become the Wix or Webflow equivalent for AI agents. I'm in love with this product called lovable.dev, and
I've heard of it, yeah.
I would encourage every one of your users to check it out. It's one of those experiences with a product that I've had where I don't think I've experienced a more magical product in the last couple of years than I have with Lovable. And what it allows an idiot like me to do is it allows me to build a full stack application, a front end, the back end, the database, the data analytics, 100% through AI prompts.
It's incredible.
We want to take that concept, and after we've built enough book of business in our agency business, create a product that allows a lovable or sort of Webflow like experience for the non-technical user to build AI agents without any code. Currently today, there are, as mentioned, a variety of tools for building AI agents, but you still have to have some semblance of developer or AI engineering experience to make it work. Our vision is to ultimately build it for idiots like me to build sophisticated AI agent technology in natural language English prompt.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about Lovable recently, by the way. It is something I have tried to fiddle around with a little bit, but just haven't gotten around to it. Are you in this sense? I am curious, by the way, because it is always on everybody's mind. You're essentially offering something to small business owners, which I actually do think is very beneficial. Are you at all in this position? How do you envision how companies will change their hiring plans moving forward? Because that's obviously something people are thinking about with this. And you're helping small businesses. I think it's great you're helping small businesses. I'm just curious, how do you feel like this is going to adjust hiring plans for those small businesses? Like, what are you able to, because you mentioned the price point, what do you feel like you're able to provide value wise in response for that? What they're giving you and what they're going to get out of it from an even theoretical worker standpoint.
Dimitri, you've raised an ethical question and an ethical dilemma
Oh
around
yeah.
AI agents, which
Oh yeah.
is, do they replace humans and do they, um, cause unemployment? Much like, our economy 20, 30 years ago, outsourced all of our manufacturing base to other countries and led to,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a series of cities across the US to effectively become deindustrialized. Will that same thing happen with the meteoric rise of AI agents? I can't answer that question. However, I feel deeply in, our company's mission that we don't want to replace humans with AI agents. What we want to
Mm-hmm.
do is reallocate your human staff members to higher value activities where an AI agent can perform the menial, repetitive, and lower level, lower value tasks, where you can then upskill or reallocate your human staff members to focus on more higher value, sort of customer specific types of activities. That is the design as part of our mission to democratize access to AI agents. It is not very clearly not to replace humans with AI agents.
No, yeah, and I think that's good to talk through that. The key note that I'll probably point out as someone who I believe relatively understands the space a little bit is exactly what you said, where it's more low level tasks that don't necessarily add value in the same way that humans can add value. Like I was actually talking with Ideken, the co-host, about this in a recent episode, but Steve Jobs said in 1980 that the computer will be a bicycle for the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he was essentially making a parallel as to how, if you look at the efficiency of running, we're like ranked third or whatever when it comes to whatever sect of animals he pointed out. However, when you give us a wheel, for a bicycle, we become, the most efficient. So we're essentially creators and we're tinkerers. And I don't think people get this because I've been in the automation space for like 4 years now, and this opened my eyes to this, but it's a more expanded version of this. The majority of what we do in work that takes up our day-to-day tasks that isn't necessarily value additive is just a huge list of if then logic that we have to
Yeah.
parse out through typing means and through tech and through computer interface. And what essentially, from my understanding, is it's just taking a step further from the API if then logic that exists through the automation world I come from, and now has knowledge bases to go along with it, and then has the ability to determine based off the inputs of text and outputs of variables actions for you that go above and beyond the just endpoints that exist.
Well, I'll talk about there was sort of, if you're close in the automation space, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Monday.com have built, billions of dollars of market value in
Mm-hmm.
robotic process automation, right?
Yep.
And so, huge business, huge market category. AI agents are miles beyond basic RPA. And the fundamental reason why is the textbook definition of an AI agent is that it's a piece of software that thinks, behaves, and learns context over time. RPA tools really are effectively software scripts with a glorified if then tree decision matrix, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
We can train our agents to do things that are so sophisticated because they understand the context of prior conversations and understand the context of communication and conversation that it's had in an anonymized manner with other individuals. So, what that means is the more time our AI agents perform their work, every second they are getting better at their job. You can't do that with RPA because an RPA doesn't have a brain. The
No.
AI agent does.
Yeah. I think that's the key thing that you're nailing that I really like. It's very difficult from my perspective for the average person to conceptualize this. And my question, just because I think you're from Silicon Valley, I'm from the world of this space. Obviously, I host a podcast about it with it. I am curious to you, what is the general understanding of what this is like in the SMB world? Like you mentioned briefly earlier, and I wanted to come back to this point. You mentioned previously earlier you had talked with a lot of SMB owners about this subject because obviously you're running a company on this now. What percentage of small business owners do you actually think are acutely aware of what an AI agent can do?
Less than 5%, less than
That's crazy,
3%.
right?
Yeah.
That's
And
that's crazy.
and so we tinker a lot when we work with customers and when we do like demos in initial sales meetings with customers. We like to demonstrate our voice agent capabilities, whether it's a phone number that you call as an AI receptionist or a voice chat that's embedded inside of their website. And we have those on our website that you're free to demo and take a look at. You can talk to an AI agent on our website anytime. But in certain circumstances, we build sort of custom demos for a customer to sort of wow them.
Mm,
And over the last few months, there's a company that your listeners and viewers should take a look at. It's called Sesame.com. Sesame.com has basically split the atom, and I don't mean this with hyperbole. They've basically split the atom with the sophistication of their voice agent technology to the
mm-hmm.
point where you cannot distinguish between speaking to a human and speaking to one of their voice agents. We have taken their open source code, we have forked it and built it into our product, and we build these voice agents for an AI receptionist, and we test the customer and ask the customer, go call this number. They call the number or have a natural language conversation with that voice agent. We don't tell them that that was an AI, and they come back to us shocked that the state of the art has advanced to the point where you cannot tell the difference between speaking to a human and speaking to an AI agent. I'll put one finer point about this, which is kind of a funny point. Do you remember that Will Smith AI video of him eating spaghetti? Like, that was
Oh yeah.
700. That was 700 days ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
700 days ago. Okay. Now, if you look what Midjourney and Sora and what the other providers are doing in the space with video production, where, Hollywood, you can create photorealistic, Hollywood grade, blockbuster grade video production with prompt based LLMs. That video that you're showing there was only 700 days ago.
Yeah.
Why I'm going to play this forward is with this product, Sesame, their open source project, that was just released a couple of weeks ago. And so we're at the cusp of where interacting with AI agents over voice, over email, and text is going to cross what we call the uncanny valley, where you're not going to be able to distinguish between an AI agent and a human. It's a really exciting time to be in this business because of what's happening so quickly around innovation and AI agents.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing up that other product, and I'll have to give it a look too. I really am excited, I think, for the general use cases of this. As somebody who is a bit of a public persona, it does freak me out a little bit. The fact my voice is basically public domain. Because I don't know if you've used 11 Labs, but that's obviously been like kind of the quote lead in the space for a little while. They released that new version, I think it was like 6 months ago. Maybe I'm off on the timing on that, but that update was incredible. And these things are continuing to expand, and we talk about it with IDECAN all the time. it's incredible. You take even what you mentioned. Obviously, that was hilariously bad. The Will Smith spaghetti thing. People forget. I mean, 2023, if I'm not wrong, as well, was the year, and it was like November when like ChatGPT first, or was it 22? I forget. Where ChatGPT essentially first came onto the public domain with 3.5. It was 23, I believe, the fall of 23, right? And that is essentially now we've gone through. Oh my God! Remember when ChatGPT 4 came out?
Yeah.
And that was like a huge
Yeah.
leap, right? And I remember, this is what people who are more nerdy about it will notice if they remember the details. Llama just dropped a context window of 10 million tokens for their most recent model. Do you remember what the context window was of ChatGPT 3.5 before they released anything past that? Like that in
No. No, I don't.
4096. Or wait, no, it was 2048. And then it was 4096 a couple weeks later. It's went from like a 2,000 token window to 10 million in.
And that's and Demetri, you are sort of legitimizing why I dug that rabbit hole in AI agents, because I've been in hard software tech for 25 years. I've been through three epochs: the dot-com epoch, the SaaS epoch, and more recently the public cloud epoch. And this new AI agent epoch is way more interesting, innovative, fast moving. And I don't think I've ever in my, almost 3 decades of professional experience ever been more excited about a piece of technology than I have with AI agents.
So we're starting here at where we're at with your company, where you're saying, okay, we're going to be able to do these tasks for you through the agents. If you had to, you gave a couple use cases. If you had to name the most intriguing one to you, what would it be? Right? Like what of the use cases is the most intriguing to you and you think most small businesses can benefit from?
I'm going to answer it in two ways. I'm going to answer the first one with a subsidiary business that we've built called Virtual SC, and you can go to getvirtual.sc. What is it? It's designed for SaaS organizations that struggle with the utilization and resource allocation of their human pre-sales systems engineers in sales calls over Zoom or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams. Those are a limited pool of very valuable resources that help salespeople qualify and close deals as the technical subject matter expert for a given product or service. The challenge is there are oftentimes more customer meetings than available hours for those systems engineers. What we've done is we've built a virtual SC. What does that mean? We can ingest all of your companies, your SaaS companies, product docs, all of the support cases, all of the implementation documentation, and create a singular voice, email, or text agent that can act as the most knowledgeable, best in class pre-sale systems engineer when a human systems engineer isn't available. And the example is, let's say I'm a sales guy or gal, and I'm getting a new demo meeting with a really marquee customer account, and that's scheduled at 1:30 p.m. tomorrow, and my SC isn't available. I have a couple of options. I can cancel the meeting with the customer, which I don't want to do. I can find another SC, which will be hard to do, or I can reschedule. The fourth option is to use Virtual SC, which joins the Zoom meeting just like Gong or Otter or any other transcription tool. It's in listen only mode. And when the sales individual, the sales rep, wants to discuss something very technical, whether it's a configuration issue, whether it's how do you implement this, how do I migrate from X, Y to Z, the sales rep can say, well, James, can you tell us about how we can migrate our legacy SQL into your cloud data warehouse? He then offers a very, using those voices that I mentioned that are near or at human-like, a very comprehensive and accurate response to that technical question, even though there isn't a human SC in the room. That's something that we've seen a lot of interest from. The Another module is what we call outbound AI, which we use for any organization that does outbound sales and marketing to customers in their lead database. They can use outbound AI to launch outbound sales calls, outbound emails, outbound
Wow.
text campaigns. Uh, so I'll give you an example. So let's say there's an auto dealership in Florida that has 35 locations, and they have a spring sales event in April where they're offering a 15% discount off of the MSRP of all of their 2025 models. And let's say they have 2,500 individual contacts in HubSpot or Salesforce. Notably, these are opt-in leads, and they have accepted the ability for them to be called by the auto dealership. You can use outbound AI to call all 2,500 of those leads, email all 2,500 of those leads, or text all 2,500 of those leads instantaneously right now, and have a dialogue. It's not a blast; it's an actual conversation, which is, "Hey, this is Frank at the dealership in Tampa. Wanted to let you know that we're having a spring sales event where all of our automobiles are at a 15% discount off of MSRP. We'd love you to get you back into the dealership. Can we schedule you a time this Saturday or perhaps next week to come in and take a test drive of one of the vehicles?" That
Wow.
sentence and the cadence that I've just mentioned is exactly how the voice call behaves because of
Weird.
uh, yeah. And now I just want to caveat with a very bolded asterisk that you cannot use this to cold call, cold email, or cold text customers. It violates a congressional act in 1991 called the TCPA Act.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it is only allowed for calling, emailing, and texting individuals that have opted in to receive sales and marketing information from your company. So we've got the virtual SC that can stand in for a human sales engineer when they're not available, and then sort of the outbound sales, email, calling for organizations that want to engage customers en masse.
Interesting. Okay. And you mentioned earlier about learning. And what I mean by learning is the fact that these are different than other tools because AI agents are essentially able to learn and improve. How does that necessarily work from what the customer experience is, right? Are they giving feedback to the agent to give it more? Is the agent autonomously learning, or how does that entire process work for you guys?
So we can do it. We can shard it in different ways. I'll give you an example of our email agent. So let's say that auto dealership has started a email thread with a customer with their unique email ID, which is, frank.thompson@gmail.com. Okay. The subject of that email is visit the dealership. And so over a period of a couple days, the AI agent who also has its own unique email address and name, is having a back and forth thread about the automobiles in inventory that qualify for the spring sales event. Now, 2 weeks later, that customer, Frank, emails the agent with a different thread with a different subject that says, "When can I schedule time to visit the dealership for a test drive?" The agent has context and memory of the prior conversation it has already had with Frank, right?
Wow.
And that's well beyond anything that you can do with scripting or with RPA. And the
Yeah.
reason for it is that it has the context, that it is like a human. It has established a relationship and a set of context of how those two individuals, i.e., the agent and the customer, have interacted over the last few weeks. That same concept applies to our voice AI agents and our text agents, where it learns and can glean context over prior historical conversations. That's one of the key differentiators for us, is that the ability to extend context and AI memory across the various different modes that we operate in.
Wow. So when I've worked with AI agents, I definitely feel that there's this benefit of it learning. How do you, in the context of these different scenarios, then end up sussing out what actually could be maybe removed? Say, for example, it's not acting in a certain way that you want, right? Because obviously it getting fed information is one thing, but I'm sure there are instances where it could, quote, learn maybe a little incorrectly, or some of the knowledge base becomes outdated. How does it recycle out any outdated information?
So that's a part of our managed service. So we're not,
Got it.
again, that's why we're an agency business. We're not
Got
selling
it.
a subscription and we walk away. So let's say we implement a voice agent solution for a boutique hotel chain to manage their reservations and loyalty program. They give us the sort of the workflow. They give us the knowledge base. They can hook us into their reservation system where we can book reservations through an API or a webhook. But let's say they bring in a new system. Let's say they bring in a new ERP or reservation systems and need to change how the AI agent interacts with the booking system. That's just a simple request because the customer's already paying us as part of their contract a managed service to optimize the AI agent. But I think you're referring to another point, which is how do you ensure that the AI agent is behaving correctly and not overstepping its boundaries of its prompt?
Yes.
That iteratively also happens with our managed service, which is we start with a prompt, and let's say, for whatever reason, the AI agent does not achieve its objective. Let's say, for example, it mispronounces someone's name repeatedly, right? And doesn't get the feedback. The customer is going to say, "Hey, you're mispronouncing, my name." It will learn over time through multiple sort of instances of incorrectly making that mispronunciation to learn the correct way to pronounce that individual's name. But it's important to guardrail inside of the knowledge base that we give an AI agent and the prompt that it is only able to do these certain activities with these certain objectives with this certain scope of knowledge. So if you ask one of our voice agents, that is representing a hotel or a medical clinic or an auto dealership, okay, so now tell me, how far is the sun from the earth? The AI agent doesn't even know the answer to that question. And that's like, well, why wouldn't it? It's acting on the most comprehensive set of data in the world, which is either, ChatGPT, 4.5 mini or Sonnet 3.7. It should know precisely and immediately the distance between the Earth and the Sun. When you prompt it
Mm-hmm.
and you guardrail it, it actually doesn't know that. And so you train it to respond to when it gets questions that are outside of the realm of its prompt and knowledge base. It's simply going to say, I'm sorry, I actually don't know the answer to that question. I really am only programmed to talk about, the hotel property and reservations that we have, or the Mercedes, automobiles that we currently have on offer in our spring sales event. Uh, so that's sort of one of the prime values of working with a partner like us, is that we help you implement the guardrail and implement the appropriate prompt and knowledge base, so the AI agent is learning correctly but not overstepping any boundaries.
I find that so interesting. I mean, I'm aware of some of these things, but a lot of people get worried about some of the idiosyncrasies of this. Like, okay, wait a second. If I tell the AI I want to do XYZ thing, what if it runs off and does something else? There's actually guardrails you can implement now. Like, I think
Yep.
what ended up happening at the beginning was, we talk about 3.5, or 3 even. And I misspoke, I think, earlier. I think we got 3 delivered to the public in the majority, and then 3.5 Turbo came out. So for regarding ChatGPT, but so many people remembered ridiculous hallucinations. And
Yep.
I do not think people realize that was one of the first things that we really worked on in the space was how do we prevent the nonsense? Because people are going to want to use this for business, and businesses cannot have that. So the average
Well, I
person
think that
is,
I think the difference is that the general purpose transformer is acting on the entire world's history of knowledge and communication, whereas an AI agent is looking at 1/1 millionth of the world's knowledge and history of communication because it's only operating on what it's given, its prompt and its knowledge base. So it's a lot easier to guardrail a voice agent, an email agent, or a text agent than it is, a global transformer
mm-hmm.
that is operating on the world's knowledge. Our knowledge, powered by AI agents, are only acting, behaving, and responding to users based on the guardrail, the knowledge, and the prompt it's given. So it is, for all intents and purposes, it's dumber than a general purpose transformer, but it's better at doing its job and minimizes the amount of hallucinations.
Yeah, I think that's something that's interesting in this conversation is most people are presupposing that's AI in general. It's a funny presupposition that it's good at everything. Mainly because I think it was pitched as that sort of way of like, oh, it's AI can do it all when it comes to text responses and whatnot. But to my understanding, AI agents are actually really niche, right? They're very good at specific tasks, or is this or roles? Is this fair enough to say?
That's what we recommend.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
we recommend use case specific, whether it's an AI receptionist, whether it's handling reservations, whether it's booking appointments. And we can, what the cool thing is, we can stack our agents. So you could have a voice call with an AI agent that can then hand over to an email agent that can hand over to a text agent that all have the same name, right? They are all the same person that have the same context of the conversation, but they're operating in different modes.
Mm.
But we fence that into a boundary of what it's supposed to do, which is your objective is to educate the customer on the hotel properties that are available for this hotel chain. And your objective is to book the customer's desired room type on their given reservation dates. That's starting small. We don't recommend having an agent that does lots of different things because that could lead to a wider boundary and the higher propensity for hallucinations.
Interesting. Okay. So I think that covers off on a lot of the concerns that people have. For me, I think the best thing about AI agents is primarily the fact that we don't know where it's going to be in a couple of years. And I'm really impressed with what you guys are starting and what you're able to do in the short time that you've been around. And it seems like you really have the right ethos for it and everything. So I'm very glad that we discussed this. I guess last thing would be to ask the question, what if you had to add to the functionality that was in your AI agents, would you in the future like to have? I know it's a wide question. There's a million things you want, but if you could envision, if you could have the perfect AI agent right now, what would be what makes it perfect?
This is pretty funny, and I don't know if this is answering your question in the right manner, but we're recording this in April, and I haven't filed my taxes yet, and so I would like an AI agent to
Bro.
take all of my documents, get the right deductions, do everything for me, so I can file on time next week. That's a use case that we haven't cracked yet. We're not necessarily focusing on that, but that's a funny use case of something it for me in my personal life some company is right now, they're probably listening to this, is right now working on this. And next year's tax season, I'm not going to have to hire H&R Block or, one of these other, TurboTax, etc. I go to uh, AIagentirs.com and I just give them all my documents. It does everything for me, files, pays, gets the right deductions, etc., etc. They get my business.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I as somebody who has a tax guy, but also wishes I could have just had it done by AI. I agree with you. Anybody who is in the small business space or is thinking about running a small business, please don't complain about your W-2 taxes at Easter or whatever ever again. Please, it is
Yes.
we would
Yes.
appreciate if you understood it is not complicated to TurboTax click. But anyways,
100%.
that's besides the point. I really appreciate you being on here. Please plug away whatever you'd like. Obviously, the product itself and anything else that you may be working on. Please plug away as we close this episode out, and you give us whatever info that you'd like to share with the crew.
Yeah. So thanks, Demetri, for having me. I think this message is for any small to medium sized business that is, wanting to learn more about the power of AI agents and how the way that it transforms the way businesses work, communicate, and engage with customers. There are a ton of opportunities to unlock with AI agents across the modes that we discuss, which are voice, phone, text, email, digital avatars, etc. Um, we're a consultancy based approach. So if you want to spend 30 minutes with us learning more about AI agents with no obligation to hear a sales pitch, we love talking about them. Just go to our website, www.poweredby.agency, poweredby.agency, and click the button to book a consultancy. And we'd love to speak with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for being on this episode of the AI Agents Podcast. We appreciate it, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Thanks, Richard. Bye.